So this is Yusuf El Tahir, and this is going to be about atheists. Yeah, I know. Yesterday, I had that kind of conference call with David P. Witham, and it should be up on his channel shortly. I also made a video answering the questions of a particularly annoying atheist. And these atheists, and I don't mean all atheists, I mean the ones on YouTube, the fundamentalist atheists, they just like to harass people. I used to believe just like you. No, you didn't. You're not Eastern Orthodox. You don't know what Orthodoxy is. And then I get somebody on there, I said, well, we don't proselytize, we don't believe the Bible's the Word of God, and we don't believe in heaven or hell. Somebody chimed in, well, I'm Orthodox, and I believe in heaven and hell. And yes, we do believe in heaven and hell. Yeah, you probably are Greek, and you went to church maybe Christmas and Easter, and you don't really know much about it, and you think it's the same thing as Roman Catholicism and Protestantism. No. I was talking to David P. Witham, and I said, yeah, you know, when I tell atheists about Eastern Orthodoxy, I say our God is more akin to the Tao than it is to what they think of God in the Western sense. And he said, yeah, you know, one of the first books I read, Christ the Mystical Tao by the hero monk Damascene. And I said, what? I thought I was the first one to use that analogy. But no, I guess it's been used before, which is good. But the atheists, first of all, this question, atheists, why are you talking to me? Why do you care? See, religion, faith is nothing to me. For me, the word faith should be translated faithfulness or loyalty. Loyalty to cause or something like that. The faithfulness to carry out the works. It's religion that I like, which is its culture, its identity. It's ingrained in you. In the Orthodox Church, somebody's brought in when they're an infant at baptism. They receive the Eucharist, or a full participating priest, hold priesthood in the church. Not the office, but the actual title. For wedding, there's a certain ceremony of putting on the crowns, taking off the crowns, and the 40 days after. There's also 40 days after the baptism too, and then for death there's certain funerary rites, and then 40 days after there's the entrance into paradise, the songs that we sing for that. So that's a whole culture that has existed for, I mean, if you want to be really hyper-critical, for 1,500 years, unbroken. Just because you don't believe in a God that makes you shouldn't partake in your culture, you shouldn't have a connection with your past. It's stupid. I myself didn't come from Christianity. The person asked, well, if you were born in India, you'd be a Hindu. Well, I was raised Muslim, and I came to Eastern Orthodoxy. So that thing falls apart. And I know Hindus in India that came to Christianity. I know Hindus in India that came to Islam. I knew many Hindus that came to Islam. So, no, that doesn't work. I've known Muslims to go to Baha'i, the Shias at least. And yes, I've even heard of atheists coming to Christianity, although I don't find it that possible. There was a monk that said atheism is not the disbelief in God, it's the rejection of the Western God, which I find is rapidly coming true. What happens if we find out that there is a such thing as reincarnation? You'll just make another scientific formula for it. Oh, see, we were right all along when we were calling the people who believe in reincarnation stupid because we were saying it for the right reason. Again, I have no interest in debating atheists or talking to them. The only reason I did was Prunkerty said, I don't want to deal with this person, can you? And I said, sure. And it was Greg Boyd's one As I said, this is Yusuf al-Tahir, and try to describe. Here's the thing for atheists. Try to describe white, black, neon green, and dark purple to somebody who's been blind from birth. You can't communicate that. And I've got atheists come on and say, "Oh, but there is such thing as light. We can prove it through light spectrums." I'm like, I'm not talking about whether it is or isn't. I'm talking about description, trying to describe that. And then love. You could describe the love between a man and a woman to a very, very small child, and he only knows relationship of the love of his mother, and maybe philia, the love between brother and sister, but he doesn't know eros, or love between a man and a woman. A married couple or a couple that are in passion. So there's no reference point. It can't be fully grasped. That's why when people ask for explanations or proofs, either you see or you don't see, and people want to call us delusional, and I've run this to the end when people are total hardcore materialists, non-dualists, and they come to the point where they say everything is matter and consciousness is just an illusion. Now, when you get to the point where you say consciousness is just an illusion, then you're delusional, and why the hell should you be talking to me about it? Eastern Orthodoxy, you'll find, is much more different from, well, as a Calvinist said, Eastern Orthodoxy is much more different from all of Western Christianity than Catholicism is from Protestantism, But Eastern Orthodoxy is different from, is equally as different from Islam, Catholicism, Protestantism. I mean, the closest thing would be Taoism. That's the closest thing to Orthodoxy where we'd have a reference point to it. Not Buddhism. But there are many people who, after studying Buddhism and Hinduism for many years, have come to Orthodoxy. And it is a culture shock for Western Christians. But there are many points that, on the surface, we believe the same as Christians. We're not worried about whether somebody's baptized or is this pretty. There's no fretting. We believe God is love and that everyone will get pulled back to God. And that will either be ecstasy or torment. And I shouldn't say everybody, I mean everything. All of creation gets pulled into the presence of God. That was meant by the apex of crucifixion, resurrection. And this is my own illustration. A table with a tablecloth on it. You have china and candlesticks and glasses and forks and plates and everything, and it's getting pulled. All of it's going to get pulled to one place. That's how the crucifixion, or the incarnation, crucifixion, resurrection is like. We believe the incarnation is vital, and you should step out of your own small-mindedness and try to put yourself in the place of the Buddhist, of the Eastern Orthodox, of this, of that, instead of say, well, I was a Methodist, therefore I was just like you. No, you weren't. I've heard an atheist say, oh, I was just like you guys. I was Christian. I went to a youth group. I was leading the youth group, and I played the guitar and the thing. I'm like thinking, this has nothing to do with historic Christianity. What are you talking about? This is modern American Christianity. And they talk about the American Bible. And say, all the Bibles are the same. No, they're not. There's different canons, you freaks. I mean, is the Quran the same as your Christian texts? No. So that's why I don't argue with atheists. I did this one time just out of chivalry, I guess. But peace to everybody out there. May God save Serbia and Syria. Arkan Zeljko Ragnetovic. Tigers. You ever seen this sign before, atheists? You ever seen this? You ever seen this sign before? Oh, you haven't? Maybe you don't know so much. Maybe you should know something about the thing that you're trying to argue against. Know your enemy. Sun Tzu. You ever heard of that? You probably didn't. Peace. And God through Serbia and Syria. Video answering the questions of a particularly annoying atheist. And these atheists, and I don't mean all atheists, I mean the ones on YouTube, the fundamentalist atheists, they just like to harass people. The Bible's word of God and we don't believe in heaven or hell. Somebody chimed in, well, I'm Orthodox and I believe in heaven and hell. And yes, we do believe in heaven and hell. I used to believe just like you. No, you didn't. You're not Eastern Orthodox. You don't know what Orthodoxy is. And then I get somebody on there. I said, well, we don't proselytize. We don't believe. Yesterday, I had that kind of conference call with David P. Witham. And, it should be up on his channel shortly. I also made a video. So this is Yusuf El Tahir, and this is going to be about atheists. Yeah, I know.